All right, we are going live, so just setting up the meeting. Okay, and we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another segment of Literacy is Life. I am Jessa, and this is our third installation. It is called Literacy at Home. So we'll be talking about family literacy and multi-generational literacy. Again, this campaign is to talk about how to redefine literacy, the different definitions that we've been kind of contributing the past week. And, this also is an opportunity to highlight great community members who are, who have had past experiences in literacy and are creating initiatives, providing resources to our community members about literacy. Again, my name is Jessa. I am a community engagement vista at the Alliance. Today I have Zainab Ihsan. She is a family self-sufficiency coordinator at the Houston Housing Authority, and Ernest Lewis. Sorry, Ernest, I almost messed up your last name. He is the president and CEO of Adult Education Center of Texas. Hello to both of you. Thank you so much for joining me today to talk about family literacy. Let's kind of start off with, what your role is in the community. How does literacy personally impact you? Because, we all come from different experiences. And so let's kind of start off with that. So Ernest, do you want to start off?
Sure. So it's a pleasure being here, Jessa. And Zainab, pleasure to meet you as well. So I've been in the nonprofit sector working with literacy probably nearly around 22 years. I am currently the president and CEO of Adult Education Center, which we're rooted in Pearland, Texas, but we do serve Harris County, Fort Bend, Galveston County, and Brazoria. So we basically serve adult learners who are looking to get their GED, learn English as a second language, citizenship, as well as job readiness, employment preparation. And we do also have an entrepreneurship training program. So I'm just glad to be here today.
Yeah, and thank you so much for providing those resources to the community. It's, again, an important gap that you're filling. Zainab, tell me more about yourself, kind of how did you get into the role at Houston Housing Authority, and, your role as a refugee coming to the United States. How was that, that experience for you?
First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be part of this great series of information and event. Thanks to everyone who is now watching us and attending this live meeting or event. First of all, my name is Zainab Ihsan. I'm a former refugee from Iraq. I moved here in 2013 with my two kids. Back in Iraq, I work with different international organizations to implement and develop some educational sectors and implement or execute some programs that was funded by different donors. When I moved here in the United States, I was looking to ensure my kids' safety first and to help them to get the better opportunities in this new environment. So from the beginning of my arrival, I decided to improve my English. I don't want to say my English or my learning, it wasn't like as now when I speak right now, but I decided, I make a decision that this is something very important. This is something very essential to me. I need to help my kids. I need to help other friends, families, because I remember at the beginning, there was many people were struggling to understand what's going on around them. They don't know how, for example, schedule doctor appointment. They don't know what's the school sending those information to them. They don't know what's their teachers for their kids' name. They don't know anything. So from the beginning, I said, okay, so let me learn, let me improve my skills in order to help others, in order to help my kids, in order to help people around me. So, and I was lucky in the beginning to find a job with the Houston Independent School District as a teacher assistant. With this role, I was able to work in a school where there's newcomers and families coming from different environments. So I was able to reach out to those families by helping them and encouraging them to engage in the community by attending English second language classes, reach out to their case managers to enroll them in those type of programs, because it was very important to them to learn and understand about the new community that is hosting them. By time I was, this is like, as I said, this was one of my first jobs with the Houston Independent School District. Then as you know, I have some humanitarian assistance experience back in my country. So I joined the organization that resettlement me. I'm sorry, the light. Just let me try something. I'm sorry. So I joined the organization that resettled me in Houston to work as a social adjustment service case manager. That role was very, very was a great role, because I was equipped with resources, information, tools that helped me to reach out to many people and families and my clients and educate them about how literacy is important in their life. It's not only reading articles, it's not only reading messages, it's everything. It's about reading labels, signs, communicate with the school, with your teacher, with your son. So in that time, this role helped me to learn more about resources, to engage more families in that particular field.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot about how, and we've talked about this in the past two lives, about how literacy is no longer reading and writing, right? It's more, right. It's now more like, oh, I can't read my prescriptions, or I can't tell my immigrant family what the doctor is saying. You know, it's about, oh, I don't know how to file taxes. It's so much more than now the lack of reading and writing, but now just a way of life. How do we incorporate this literacy into the whole of our lives? And you mentioned a good kind of, not good, but a gap in what maybe families and students may be experiencing, you know, like families who come from outside the country, they may not know how to talk to their teacher about grades or what their student might need help on. And so that leads me to one of the questions, right? What barriers might our students, and maybe more specifically our families, are facing on, you know, the ground level? What might they be facing in terms of literacy that you know, might hinder their success? Maybe there's a lack of something, like maybe, you know, systemically that maybe community members might not have access to. You know, Ernest, I kind of want to see what you say, because again, you both are in different roles, and right. You as an educator, what are you seeing that you and your organization is struggling with?
Yeah. So we see just a variety of things from folk that are coming through the door wanting to access services, wanting to increase their educational skills and develop them. So we're seeing lack of family income is one of them, where it could be that they're unemployed or they're underemployed. Another key component is language limitations that Zainab had talked about, but the language limitations of not being able to speak English or not being able to speak it very well, to be confident in communicating with family and their children and folk in their community, their employers, or the teachers of their children. Also, too, we've seen some undiagnosed learning disabilities as well, to where folk may have dyslexia or just other reading limitations as well, vision problems as well, and hearing that may be undiagnosed. So some of those issues could really just fast forward to adulthood and really affect folk of actually achieving their educational goals. And that's probably maybe one of the reasons why they didn't do so well in grade and high school. Poverty is another big component as well, where folk are mostly focusing on survival. How I'm going to make you know, my rent, how I'm going to pay utilities, all of those things, focusing on survival. how I'm going to cover my basic needs. So some of those are really this barriers that we see a lot. And then of course, transportation, because we're in a metropolitan area. How do we get to the resources, right? How do we make sure that we put money aside so that we can go to class, but also attend work, make sure we drop the kids off, purchase groceries. So all of that. And then also childcare. It's another big issue as well, especially dealing with COVID. Kids were home, now they're back in school, right? So how do I have proper care for my children to where I can pursue my educational goals? And then we also, lastly, have seen a lot of anxiety because you had some folk who had some lack of confidence or shame because they're not reading as well as they should, or they thought they should, or comprehending or speaking English as well. So really kind of helping them overcome that and be confident and really just take those steps in achieving their educational, language, or employment goals.
Yeah, and you mentioned a lot of systemic challenges as well. So poverty, transportation, childcare, all of those can be a systemic problem because at the same time, right, like maybe we just don't invest in enough into our infrastructure in order to provide these families with equal access. Zainab, what do you think about this question of barriers that students and families are facing?
Yeah, I completely agree with Mr. Ernest about the issues that he mentioned. That is one of the most, those are the most challenges issue that literacy face right now. So I would like to add also, like most of the families, especially refugees, came from camps where there's no education available in that time because of the war, of the conflict that's affect them. So also, and there's also missing the role model inside the family because most, like, there's no encouragement to study, there's no encouragement to learn English, that also can impact the literacy. I also would like to, in addition to that also is, as Mr. Ernest mentioned, the disability and diagnosed disability issues like hearing, vision. This is also can impact that because I was working with families that they were expecting to learn English within a week or 2 weeks, and when this is not happening in that time, they were anxious, upset because they were expecting that they can speak English within like first 3 weeks of classes or first 2 weeks of the classes. So, but there's other issues that impact them that time to learn English very quickly. Other challenges I would like to mention that lack of resources and lack of reach to the resources also. Most of the families I met or I know, they don't know about resources. They know only maybe some few resources, but they don't know that Houston, it's a big city. There's many programs around there. So that's maybe is one of the issues that of the challenges that can impact those families too. As my role, beside that, I'm a member with the Iraqi American Society organization. I always share any resources about English classes, any training available, any vocational training through my community. So they can, and sometimes I help them to do calls or reach out to the providers, so to enroll in those programs. So this is most of the issues that might impact the literacy in the communities.
Yeah, and there are many. There are lots of ways that we can kind of look at this. Not only is there like a lack of transportation, but a lack of reach, a lack of outreach to these communities that maybe, again, I was involved in an event with the Alliance about, our back to school events, one of our biggest events this year, and we did it I think 2 weeks ago, and we gave out 3,000 backpacks to students, but we did have so much outreach, but then there may be, there's still that part that didn't know about this or are only hearing about this for the first time. And I think it ties back into what Ernest said that was interesting, that you have that other Facebook's lives or guest speakers haven't really touched on it yet, and it's anxiety. It's the perpetual anxiety that these families are, oh, well, I'm going to walk in and everyone's going to be, like they know this and I don't. And, that could lead to 1,000 other anxieties about, oh, are they taking advantage of me? Oh, are they pulling money out of me? And I know this question might be hard to answer, but as you two as active community members, Zainab, as you working with families in the Houston Housing Authority, and Ernest, as an educator and as an advocate for families in adult education around Houston, how can we reduce these anxieties? How can we kind of how can we provide, let them know that we are advocates, and that can be approached in multiple ways. You can answer this in any way you think, because there are different ways that we can be of service to these community members. And so how can we help reduce these anxieties? And maybe I know that we're already helping them out, but yeah.
And I think that's a good question. And I think foremost, because I've been doing this a while, like almost 22 years, as I said, and I've seen it done really well. I've seen it done not so well. And I've been part of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
So part of it is that when you're working with adult literacy, working with adult learners or families, or any population of folk where you're giving a resource, is that you have to make sure that we're not going there to save folks' souls or to save them, but you're going there to partner with them to improve their quality of life that they want, and not that what we think they want, right? So making sure that we're very deliberate about having a conversation with the community, what those needs are, and matching them with the resources, and together we work on what those goals are. And then also too, making sure that we're being authentic, right? We're not coming there being just really inauthentic and just really saying, okay, well, we have all the resources and you need to fit in our box. So meeting individuals where they are, customizing the programs and services to where the community needs are, where some of those gaps are, and serving as that bridge, but then also including the community leaders, including community residents in some of that decision making. But on top of that, making sure that we're culturally competent. So that goes with your staff and your board being reflective of the community that you serve, making sure that the materials and the languages of your clientele is being spoken and the materials are in that language. But then also streamlining the services as much as possible to increase access. Because what we don't want to do is have people jumping through all of these hurdles to really learn how to read or write or get their GED or learn English. We definitely want to make it as streamlined as possible. And I think part of the issue with anxiety is distrust as well. So if we're looking at non-English speakers, some folk are worried about their citizenship status. Would it be in jeopardy? Would I be in jeopardy if I don't have my citizenship, right? Also too, maybe they're asking a little bit too many information to where it may compromise my aid or support if I'm getting SNAP resources, if I'm getting TANF, if I'm getting the gold card. So just making sure that they're in a safe space, we're here to help them develop skills to improve themselves and to help them work towards the goals that we set together, and we hold each other accountable. But then also having it at a safe self-pace, because like Zainab had said, I think one family wanted to learn English in a week. Some people can, but definitely making sure that we're working with them, we're giving them realistic expectations, giving them the support they need, but then also matching with meaningful information and referrals that are real, because sometimes we'll give folk referral lists and those referrals are dead, right? They're no longer open.
Yeah.
It may be a capacity. Right. So making sure those resources are valuable resources to help them what their needs are, and really putting in the work on the front end to understand what are those barriers we talked about, right? So whether it was transportation, childcare, unemployment, and really looking at what those barriers are and how can we address them so that they can persist in education and achieve those goals. So I think that we have to really look at it from a communal perspective, community driven, and every decision we make should start from the client, how it's going to benefit the client or the adult learner, and then move it up, but not based on, okay, what is the needs of the organization? So it should always start with the client or adult learner or partner, and then everything else should fall in place, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and you said a lot of good things that need to be mentioned. You know, they're like organizations need to be community driven, and not only community driven, but reflective and self reflective of, you know, their own mission and how they approach it on the ground level, right? Because there are people who may never know about what's happening on the ground floor, and are completely disconnected to the needs of the families, of the community members. And yeah, I think, again, you brought up another great point. We have to meet them where we are. You know, we can't just keep saying, come over here, we have everything.
Right.
But if there's just a huge, again, barrier that is blocking it, then, you know, and we have the resource to get over it, why can't we meet them over there, you know? And yeah, so a lot of really good points that you've made, Ernest. And Zainab, how, you know, I want to get your opinions on this as well, but I also want to give you the space to talk about how your experience, especially, you know, coming into the Alliance and then, you know, getting this job, what has been helpful for you, especially in terms of resources and organizations kind of helping you out to get to where you are.
So actually, I just started working with the FSS as FSS coordinator, but before this position, I was working as a career coach. So, you know, this job as a coach, I have to have a good communication skills so I can communicate with my clients, and I have to talk with them about their issues, their goals, the challenges they are facing every day, how to overcome, how to address them, how to identify goals, smart goals. So it's communication skill. It's too much skills needed to be able to accomplish, to be able to work as a career coach. So I decided, as I mentioned earlier, I decided from the first day of arrival that I need to improve my English. So I designated 2 hours since the day I arrived to this country to learn anything new, like read any articles, any paper I see in my way, like just grab it and read about all those new words and write down those new words. Also, I attended with the Alliance the training it's a course, English as English second language course. Was the time when pandemic hits us, so I was working from home, and I designate some time of my free time to attend those classes, and really it helps me a lot because I was able to access to one of the great apps to improve my English skills, learn new words, improve my grammar. Also, I was able to engage with other people who were in that time facing the pandemic as me. That was helped me to, overcome of my anxiety, my fears, because, that time we were just sitting at home, taking care of our health. We are not able to communicate with other people. But this opportunity gave me the chance to speak with other people, talk with them. That was really, really very helpful. So I always, after I complete this course, I was able to share those information about the course with my community through a Facebook group for Iraqi families. So I was able to share about this opportunity to the Alliance and help some of the people to enroll in that program. So I always, as I mentioned to everyone, your story is your power. So my story was a power to me and to other people. Sharing this story maybe encourage other people to overcome their fears and overcome their lower confidence to speak English. I remember when I arrived to this country, the first interview was about something I don't remember exactly. So I remember the lady who called me to speak with me about some application I submitted, and she asked me to confirm some information. I didn't understand anything. So I hung up the phone because I was I was anxious. I was scared to say something maybe wrong. But then I said, I did something wrong. This is shouldn't no, I should study, I should learn, I should attend the classes, I should improve that. How can I like help my kids if I can't, if I don't read or write English, So so yeah, this is like some of the stories I would like.
Yeah. And I mean, again, your narrative is going to inspire so many other people, right? Like if they hear more about your experiences, they'll be like, well, I want to do the same thing. And and I think we also mentioned this in last segment, the workforce training. We talked about how learning English is also an investment in yourself. It's an investment in because it not only helps you, it helps maybe your family members, it helps you get a better job, it helps your kids get into school or, to stay in school. So it's a lot of factors. And so as we close out this discussion, I kind of wanted to just give you guys a few more sentences and kind of see, we have a literacy gap. And we've talked about this before. We need people. We're right here. We need to get people here, but the gap is what does it. The gap is where we kind of lose everything. And so I just wanted to see, in a few short sentences, what you guys think are, solutions to kind of closing that gap, I know it's a kind of big question. It's a question that can't be answered in just a few sentences. But I would like to know the answers, and maybe you guys have some solutions that we have never kind of considered. So anyone can start. I know it's a very big question.
Like raising awareness is very important. Raising awareness about this issue, the law literacy in individuals and families, how that can impact everything in their life, employment, health, education. Also, I think if we have a comprehensive system that has all the data, like resources, services, numbers, people to reach out to them, that is very, very, very essential to close this gap. And also, I would like to, if I suggest, we would need to engage all other community leaders and non-profit organizations, resettlement agencies, other people, and even the people themselves that they have lack of literacy. Like, we need to reach out to them, ask them how we can help them. Maybe they have some ideas, maybe they have some suggestions that can, maybe can cover this, this gap. Right. So I think this is one of the suggestions I would like to say.
Yeah, thank you for your input. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff that you talked about and needs to be mentioned. Ernest, what are your thoughts?
So I have a lot of solutions, but definitely.
I mean, yeah, I'll take all of them.
But definitely it's something that we have all been working as being practitioners and leaders of this work. And right now it's always about making sure that we have adequate resources at the school district levels, right? Because we have a lot of resourced school districts. So making sure that we are funding them adequately through the K through 12, but then also making sure we have comprehensive funding from the philanthropic community for the community-based organizations. So the large, the small, the medium, because there's a lot of silos. So making sure we mobilize all those practitioners together where we're working on common goals. So that Project Blueprint is really something that's very innovative, but that's kind of bringing us all to the table, convening with workable solutions. Another big component is to really invest heavily in a digital divide, because that's going to increase access. That's going to also bring equity. So we do need to focus on racial as well as income equity and gender equity for education, because that is a big component. Because families basically need to have the same resources as their counterparts. We also need to make sure that the income levels and mobility is there as well, so that we are positioned to succeed no matter what your economic background is, no matter what your your race or ethnicity is, or where neighborhood or zip code that you reside in. But then also making sure that folk can earn family sustaining wages. Because if you're worried about how you're going to pay your bills, how can you really focus on education, right? Or working on building your skills to get an advancement, or helping your kids with homework because you're worried about rent and things like that. And those are some of the things that we see on a daily basis with our clients and with our adult learners. So definitely just making sure that we bridge those gaps, and then also even investing in how do you bridge the gap between rural areas and urban, because some of the rural areas are being underserved or forgotten about even. So looking at how can we bridge that gap as well. So those are some of the solutions that I'm thinking about, that my fellow counterparts we're working on and we're brainstorming about, and figuring out how can we, with our piece of the work, address some of those meaningfully.
Yeah, and again, you've raised a lot of good points about how to meet them where they are again. And this is why we're doing this. This is kind of an effort in sharing resources, sharing our experiences in literacy, and how, you know, we as all educators, all community members of Houston can get our other counterparts to, for them to be successful. And again, thank you guys so much for joining me. Since you mentioned digital literacy, our next segment is on digital literacy on Wednesday at 5 p.m. And again, thank you, Ernest, and thank you, Zainab, for joining me. You guys we had a really great discussion about literacy, family literacy, and how people like you are breaking the barriers of literacy and how to essentially help others. And again, thank you for all the work that you've done in the community. And yeah, so thank you guys, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah. All right.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Have a good evening. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.